Hi, my name is Jerry Kutz, and I'm joined today by former defensive back Myron Rolle, who's a recipient of the Rhodes Scholarship and is now a neurosurgeon. Myron, let's talk about how you chose Florida State, your recruitment process, and how you wound up here.
Well, I was the number one rated high school player coming out of New Jersey by ESPN. So I had over 80 or so scholarship offers. And, I thought about Florida State for a long time because my cousin Samari Rolle had played at FSU. So I'd been watching FSU from the 90s. And when John Lilly, the recruiting coordinator at the time, approached me about, Florida State's interest in having me come down there, I took a strong look. And I made it very clear to Coach Lilly and Coach Andrews, Mickey Andrews, and Coach Bobby Bowden as well, my head coach, my future head coach, that I was coming to school, to a college, not only to play football, right? I was coming to become a Rhodes Scholar, coming to prepare myself to be a neurosurgeon at one point, to improve myself as a man, as a human, to get involved in a community, do things like that, really have a fully enriched college experience. And when I went down to my visit in Tallahassee, I knew right away that FSU would be the right place for me because when I mentioned all those things on my recruiting trip, in my tour, they had elements of all aspects of future Myron, let's say, right? So I met Garrett Johnson, Rhodes Scholar, shot putter. He became my mentor when I got to Florida State. My mother loved him and said, "You need to hang with this guy because he's the best." I had a tour of the FSU College of Medicine, met the deans there, met a couple doctors there, and they talked to me about the process of getting into medical school, what pre-med looks like, and how that future may be for me. I had a chance to spend some time with President TK Weatherall, who was obviously very politically active and involved in the community, and he gave me some insight on how I can leverage my social capital, my cultural capital as a football player in the state capital to try to talk to legislation about um, any sort of philanthropic endeavor that may come to my mind. If I'm passionate about something and I feel like I want to serve the underserved, then maybe there's a way to do it. And being in Tallahassee is the right spot. So hitting all of those points just made FSU the right spot. And when I left that visit, it didn't take long to realize that FSU was my number one choice. And then in September of my senior year at the Hun School in New Jersey, my boarding school, I committed to FSU on national TV, and the rest is history.
Myron, so once you arrived on the campus at Florida State and you were exposed to Coach Bowden and Mickey Andrews and all the wonderful coaching staff that was here at that time, how did it affect you and shape you as the person that you've become?
I think those men and that football staff at Florida State had a tremendous impact on who I am today. Currently, I'm a senior neurosurgery resident and global neurosurgery fellow at Harvard University at the Massachusetts General Hospital, one of the top, if not the top hospital in the country. And going through neurosurgery, going through the operations that we have to do, brain, spine, you're in very tight and very expensive real estate, as we would say, where if you make one mistake left or right or up or down, you can really leave a patient with a deficit. And so understanding that pressure moment and how to prepare for that moment came from football, came from my time with Mickey Andrews and Bobby Bowden. They taught me what it's like to prepare like a champion, what it's like to compete and push myself and challenge myself beyond where I think my faculties and capacities could take me, right? And so getting to FSU, I learned to be a better player, be a better teammate, communicate better. How do I overcome challenges, take coaching correctly, and use their instruction to be positive and to move forward? How do I fight? How do I become so focused on the moment that I block out all the distractions, the noises, the bells, the whistles, the calls, the other people in the operating room? How do I just block all that out so I can hone in and be the best surgeon I can for this patient on the operating room table? How am I able to adjust and adapt? I think when the pandemic hit and I stopped being a neurosurgeon for a second and then volunteered to be an emergency room doctor and an ICU doctor to take care of these very sick patients, I had to learn how to adjust my daily schedule so that I can be better and contribute to helping these very sick and vulnerable people in Boston. And Coach Andrews and Coach Bowden, they taught me how, look, if you have to, do B, when we game planned A all week, you have to do it and you have to find it in you. Go back to your fundamentals, take a breath, and really focus and trust your teammates to get the job done. So they have had a tremendous impact on my life currently, my life in the future. And I talk to my fellow teammates, and they all feel the same way about those men and that staff at Florida State, because it prepares you beyond just being a professional football player. It prepares you for life.
Myron, we talk about how football, or any sport for that matter, help prepares student athletes for life. Do you agree with that? And how did it affect you in your life?
I think the aspects that I had mentioned that you train, and the characteristics and the traits that you develop on the practice field, in the weight room, in your recovery sessions, in your film sessions with your teammates, all of these things are incredibly useful to your life as a thinker, as a leader, whatever discipline it is that you choose. If it's law, if it's education, if it's law enforcement, whatever the case may be, you can apply it to your life going forward, and you can use those valuable sort of gems and pearls that Coach Andrews and Coach Bowden and other coaches in the sports that we have at Florida State University impart on us daily. When you're in it, it's hard to see it, right? When you're working through the grind, you're like, oh man, this is tough. It's hot. I'm sweating. I'm cramping up. It's very difficult. I got this opponent that's coming up on Saturday, on Sunday, whenever we play. And it's hard to see it. But once you step away and you remove yourself from the environment, you look back and say, you know what, I was forged in the fire being at Florida State University, being a student athlete here, and I'm prepared and designed now to be a leader in my field. And I've certainly seen it in neurosurgery in my career now as a physician.
I've always been impressed with the way that student athletes can manage their time. Competition is at a very high level, and a lot of the students, like yourself, select difficult majors. How did you learn to balance that time while you were in college? And now, how does that benefit you as a father, a husband, and a neurosurgeon?
It's absolutely important and essential to be able to balance your time and understand that there are important things in your life that need your attention and need your energy and support. And so I have two newborn twins, a boy and a girl, Zora and Zayed. They're 10 months old, and they need their father, they need their mother, they need their grandparents. And so we make sure that we're around and that we prioritize and place a premium on their development. My wife needs me. And it was difficult during the pandemic when I had to sort of be away from her and I couldn't come home to her. I sent her to her family in Columbus, Georgia, because I didn't want to infect her with anything at the time. She was pregnant with our children. So there was some emotional stress on our family in that respect. But I think my time as a Florida State student athlete taught me that the balance is important. Making sure that you put in the effort and energy to things that matter to you and to your community and to your family. And I've been able to do that, thankfully, by communicating and being prayerful. That's something else that Coach Bowden was incredibly ardent about. He would tell us, look, I don't care if you guys get to the National Football League. It would be wonderful if you do. But I do care that you become better men when you leave me. And if you become better men through Christianity and through our faith, then that's a fantastic thing. Most of us followed that, and most of us felt that we were boys when we came in, men when we left, to not only be a valuable contributor to this community, but also to our own nuclear family as well.
Now I'd like to talk about something that I know is near and dear to your heart, the Bahamas, where your family was raised. Can you share with me the story of your Aunt Annie and the charity that you've created to help serve the people of the Bahamas who sustain traumatic neurological injuries?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Jerry, the Bahamas means a lot to me. My mother was 7 months pregnant with me in Nassau, Bahamas, but wanted me to be a Bahamian and a U.S. citizen. So she got permission from her doctor to fly from Nassau to Houston, have me there, and then I came back to the Bahamas for about 3 years. Eventually, we moved up to New Jersey, and that's where I grew up. Spent most of my formative years in the States. My brothers were born in the Bahamas. My parents obviously raised aunts, uncles, grandparents, all my family. You have to go back there to see anyone. And so from a child, I felt intrinsically connected to the Bahamas. And, when I was growing up, one of my cousins, she's older than us, so we call her auntie, but she's officially and technically my cousin. She was in Exuma, where our family is from, one of the family islands. She was walking down the street and she was hit in the head by a car, a speeding motorist that was going by. She ended up dying after not seeing a physician, no CAT scan, no MRI, no nurses took care of her. She was waiting for 7 hours to be seen, slipped into a coma, became paralyzed, and ended up passing away. At that point, that was 2010. Now, so I was in the NFL with the Tennessee Titans at the time. At that point, I said, this is unacceptable. It's unacceptable for my family personally, but it's unacceptable to any Caribbean or any family anywhere that you have to deal with a preventable death like this and sort of overcome that. She was the matriarch of our Exuma family. She meant a lot to us. She was very close. She was very into her Bible and into her scriptures. And it was just very difficult that her life was cut short at the early age of 74. And so once I got to medical school, I realized that there's something that I can do. I can prepare myself to go back home, to go back to the Caribbean region and try to develop the neurosurgical infrastructure there so that this case doesn't happen in the Bahamas, Haiti, Grenada, St. Lucia, Guyana, anywhere, right? No one has this issue. And so now as a 5th-year neurosurgery resident, I have developed relationships and connections to the prime ministers and ministers of health down the Caribbean, to the chief medical officers, other people who are international savants at implementing, ways to develop health systems. And we created something called the CARICOM Neurosurgical Initiative. And in short, it is a way to develop neurosurgical capacity so that the vulnerable populations in the Caribbean can access timely, quality, and equitable neurosurgical care at all times, right? You can get it when you need it, and it's quality and it's efficient. And we're going to do it to all 15 Caribbean countries. We're kicking off in January 2022. We have a fundraiser going on currently. We're trying to get to $200,000. And we're right now currently at 183,000. So we're close. And we certainly will love any donation, any sort of aspect of support. We would absolutely love it. You can find the link to the crowdfunding page on my Twitter, Myron Rolle, or Instagram, Myron L. Rolle, or Facebook, my name, Myron Rolle, or you can go to our website, CaribbeanNF.org, CaribbeanNF.org. That is a foundation that supports the CARICOM Neurosurgical Initiative. And one last thing I'll say, why is this important for Americans or Florida State Seminoles, people who love student athletes and enjoy what we do? A part of the reason that we become student athletes is that we find our purpose, right? We find our calling. And some is in your sport that you play, and others can be other things, right? I mean, I went back to the Bahamas in Hurricane Dorian to try to, help with relief and recovery efforts in 2019 because I've been called to this place. My purpose and my calling is to operate on brains, try to save lives, but it's also to develop the health system in my home region, in my home country, so that people don't suffer, right? They don't suffer and they feel like they have a shot at life. We want to save lives, and donations and support to this crowdfunding, this GoFundMe link that you can find on all of my social media platforms or that website, CaribbeanNF.org, is a first step towards doing that. I developed myself as a human, as a leader, as a thinker, as a difference maker through my Florida State University time as a student athlete. And now I'm trying to exercise all of those qualities into the lives of the vulnerable populations in a place that means a lot to me and to others as well. So all the support from Seminole boosters, from the Seminole family, from everyone who loves Florida State would be incredibly, incredibly appreciated.
Dr. Rolle, I want you to know something. Seminole Booster CEO and President Mike Alford is very committed to encouraging his donors to support this very worthwhile cause. And I am too. As the Osceola publisher, we're going to encourage our readers to join in this very worthwhile effort. After you completed your undergraduate degree at Florida State and received the Rhodes Scholarship, you went to study at Oxford, England. Could you talk about that journey and what that education was like?
So the journey to go to Oxford was amazing. It started when I was a freshman at FSU. I had a chance to meet Garrett Johnson. As I mentioned, he became my role model, my hero. I followed everything he did on campus. How we dressed, I dressed like that. What car he drove, I tried to get the same car. I mean, I tried to be like his little brother. I think at times he got annoyed of me because I was around him so much. But I said, look, you are the epitome of a student athlete. He was an aide to then Governor Jeb Bush. He volunteered in Haiti. He was obviously a Rhodes Scholar, a national champion shot putter. He was phenomenal, right? He's everything that my mother wanted me to be. And so I stuck by his side. And thankfully, he didn't shoot me away. He really took me under his wing and helped me. So from that time, he and the Office of National Fellowships were grooming me to get ready for the Rhodes Scholarship process. And when we looked into it, the date of my interview for the Rhodes Scholarship was November 22nd, 2008, same day that our football team was playing University of Maryland in College Park, Maryland. So much coordination had to go between getting to Birmingham to get my interview, hopefully win a scholarship, which thankfully I did, and then getting from Birmingham to College Park and getting onto the field on time. Unbelievable coordination by Randy Spettman, the AD at the time, and everyone, Coach Andrews, Coach Bowden, really supporting me through all of that. Once I accepted the scholarship, I went over to England, got my degree in medical anthropology, ate some fish and chips, played a little rugby with the Oxford Blues.
Oh, really? Rugby?
I played the wing because I didn't want to get hit as much because I didn't have any teeth. And I was like, you guys tackle hard, you tackle correctly, but no pads? I said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to run past you. So that was interesting, but try to stay in shape as best as possible. You learn from some of the best minds in the world. And I think that Oxford experience what it did for me was it taught me medical anthropology. So it taught me how to take care of patients as humans, right? Looking at them with a real story, with a personal narrative, and not looking at them like a commodity, just a name that you see go through your Rolodex. Like, okay, this is another person. Let's just take out their brain tumor and then move. These are people who have faith and they have family and they have interests and they have food preferences. I mean, all these things. So now as a brain surgeon, yes, you have to take out their brain tumor. Yes, you have to fix their spine. Yes, you have to clip their aneurysm. You have to do the scientific things that can help them get healthy. But in the same time, when you manage them, can you spend a little bit of extra time talking to them and realizing who they are? What can we do to help you in your rehab and your recovery after we operate on you? What are some of the things that we need from you? I think my opportunity being at Oxford taught me how to take care of the patients on the ground level and look at them one-on-one. Being a brain surgeon is fantastic. You're inside someone's brain, inside someone's spine, who at this point had no other option and they have to come to you. And you feel like you can truly save a life at this moment. Your hands, your mind, your preparation, how you've looked at all the scans and the MRIs prior to develop a plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D. If all those things fail, it's fantastic. And so I feel like walking into the operating room is like the lights turning on into a football stadium. I feel ready. I feel charged up. It's an adrenaline rush that I haven't experienced anywhere else. So it's an amazing thing. And I'm glad my second chapter of my life is neurosurgery.
Myron, we often talk about the value of scholarships to the people who receive them, particularly college student athletes, many of whom are the first from their family ever to go to college. We talk about the fact that it can change the trajectory of their lives. Many of the people listening to this are members of Seminole Boosters, whose donations fund about $12 million worth of scholarships. Take a minute to talk to us about what a scholarship means to you.
The value of a football or any sort of scholarship as a student athlete at Florida State is phenomenal. It is almost immeasurable in a way because it removes a level of burden and pressure that you already face as a student athlete trying to compete against other equally talented student athletes who are phenomenal in their own right. And so you don't have to worry about the stress and the pressures of taking care of your family back home, leaving your family and thinking that you're not a breadwinner anymore for them by working your jobs that you were working in high school or whatever the case may be. You're able to just focus on being a true student athlete, a student first, and then getting involved in the community in Tallahassee. I remember, going to Tallahassee and knowing that my time would be limited as a football player. I know I have to put in the work in the film room, in recovery, training room, weight room, all of these things. But when I'm away from that, can I decompress and be a regular student on the campus? Can I go and listen to Spike Lee give a speech? Or can I go and listen to, Jeb Bush talk at our campus? Can I go to our circus and enjoy that? Can I go and, watch a movie at the student center that was, free for students, and I can just go and hang out with some of my friends? Can I do these things and enrich myself in this experience that I would have no other way of doing, right? And so you give these student athletes this opportunity to just truly immerse themselves in the culture of Florida State, in the community, without having the stress, the mental anguish, and the burden of thinking, how am I going to pay for this? Am I going to be off campus next semester because I can't pay and I'm financially behind? It's fantastic. And I think this is how you develop future leaders, because of your sacrifice, your commitments, your efforts in ensuring that we're able to just hone in on the things that will make us better humans going forward.
When a person donates their money to your charity, how is their money used to serve the patients?
So in our GoFundMe page, we also have a list of how the donations would be used very, very explicitly, but I can go through them here, and I'm excited to do that. So we have visiting professorships. So how do we expand coverage and capacity of neurosurgeons in the region by having different neurosurgeons travel from island to island and maybe operate for 2 weeks, 3 weeks and pay for that so that they're able to expand the coverage. You have some islands in the Caribbean that have no neurosurgeons, and they have to fly their patients to Miami or Fort Lauderdale or Duke, or sometimes fly up to Boston. And it's it's costly. It consumes time. And as what we say in neurosurgery, time is brain. And so if you have to have that delay, sometimes individuals don't make it that far. And so if you have these neurosurgeons who are able to work in a borderless sort of region, like we're trying to do here, this supports it. A lot of the neurosurgeons back in the Caribbean don't have the medical device and equipment. And so the donations will help with device implementation, infrastructure development as well, allowing these neurosurgeons to do more cases, more complex cases, more volume of cases. So again, there won't be any denial of care, timely, equitable, accessible care for the most vulnerable patients. And then a neurotrauma registry as well, right? So how do we collate information and understand how we collect data in the region so that we know what's happening to patients? When is it happening? How is it happening? Can this inform policy so that our government leaders and our major stakeholders can make decisions about improving road traffic safety, mandating helmet safety, mandating folate supplementation for women of childbearing age so that we don't have patients with spina bifida anymore, because that is a huge problem in places like Haiti and other parts of the Caribbean. So that's a part of it as well. And then another very, very important aspect of your donations would be a virtual neurotrauma module for nurses that are in remote areas. Now let's take my aunt again, Auntie Annie, that's her name, and she was in Exuma, where we don't have a major hospital. If there was a nurse in Exuma who was trained through our program, through this neurotrauma module that we'll do virtually, that's using all of the international guidelines for how to acutely stabilize patients, if there was a nurse who could stabilize my aunt, she would still be with us today. She needed a certain things done. She needed her head of bed up. She needed certain medications. All of these things could have happened in a very remote part of the Caribbean. And so we want to equip and empower these nurses and nurse practitioners and physician assistants to know what to do when there's an acute trauma like that before the patients get transferred for their definitive neurosurgical care, before they need their surgery or whatever the case may be. You can really, really save lives by having physician extenders know how to take care of these patients. So all of those donations will go towards those things. Again, increasing coverage, increasing capacity, making the Caribbean a place where if you have a neurotrauma issue or a neurosurgical issue, that you're going to be treated, you can be cared for in a timely, equitable, and quality fashion. That's what we're looking to do for sure.
You have to be the most accomplished young man I've ever been blessed to meet. And I know you're not satisfied yet, but you have to be pleased with where you're at thus far in your life.
It absolutely is a blessing. And now to be a father, probably the most important title. It's that much better. My parents are proud of me. I think they took a chance by sending me from New Jersey down to Tallahassee to grow. And I love Florida State so much, I came back and got my medical degree from FSU as well.
Right.
It's it's been a blessing from the age of 17. Now I'm 34. And like you said, still want to do a lot more. But I think we're on the right track, and it's been a great journey. And thankfully, I've been able to sort of help mentor younger people who find inspiration from my story and want to continue to move forward. Anything that I can give, I know that I've been helped by people like Garrett Johnson when I first came in. If I can be that for someone else and turn the table, that's amazing. That'd be great.
Dr. Rolle, on behalf of all Seminoles who are listening to this, we are very proud of you. You've accomplished a lot in your young life, and I know that your journey ahead is going to be a wonderful thing for a lot of people. Thank you for what you're doing, and know this, we're going to be behind you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate it.